If you are sitting there waiting for that one conversation, that one apology, that one explanation that you think will finally let you move on, let me tell you something. You might be worshiping closure instead of trusting Allah's wisdom. Some things in life don't end up with a bow neatly tied around them. They end up abruptly, painful, or without answer. And the truth is, they are not supposed to give closure. They are supposed to give you freedom.
احسب أن الدين بعيد عن حب وحياة وبهجرك للدين ستحيا تعشق ما.
Assalamu alaikum, my beautiful limitless queens. You're all welcome back to my channel. And if you are new here, my name is Zeesalv, but you can call me Z for short. Here we talk about all things faith, self-care, self-love, confidence, personal growth, and healing, while embracing a balanced Muslim lifestyle that is pleasing to Allah. If that resonates with you, please subscribe, turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any of my videos. Today's conversation is a deep one, because I know so many of you are carrying wounds from the past. Maybe it's a relationship that ended without explanation, the friendship that ghosted you, or the job that let you go suddenly. And you've been asking yourself, why? Why did this happen to me? Why didn't I get the chance to understand? But here is the truth we don't talk about enough. Closure is often an illusion, and if you chase it too hard, you risk keeping yourself tied to a chapter that Allah has already closed for your own protection. So in this video, I am going to take you through why we crave closure so deeply, the illusion of closure, and why it really satisfies us, what Islam teaches us about ending, qadr, and letting go, the freedom that comes when you release the need for explanation, and practical ways to heal and move forward without waiting for closure. By the end of this, you will understand why some things had to end, not to punish you, but to set you free. Let's start here. Why do we want closure so badly? Psychology says closure is about certainty. The human mind hates loose ends. When something ends abruptly, our brain feels like it's been left on pause with no way to hit play again. So we crave that final explanation, a conversation, an apology, or some kind of ending that will let us wrap it up neatly in our minds. But for us, my queens, it's even deeper. As women of faith, we are often nurturers, feelers, and healers. We don't just love lightly. We pour our souls into relationships, friendships, and dreams. So when something ends suddenly, it feels like part of us is left behind, floating unanswered. You might find yourself replaying the last message, the last meeting, the last words over and over again. Like if you just analyze it enough, you will crack the code. You will figure out why. And once you know why, you think you will finally move on. But let me ask you something. Even if they gave you the explanation, would it really be enough? Think about it. Have you ever gotten an apology that still didn't heal the wounds? Or an explanation that left you with more questions than answers? That is the illusion of closure. Here's the hard truth, Queen. Closure doesn't usually give you peace. It gives you temporary relief, but not true healing. Why? Because closure is often about control. We think if we just understand why something ended, we can control our pain, but healing isn't about control. It's about surrender. You can sit across someone who hurts you and listen to them explain why they left, why they betrayed you, why they chose someone else, why they quit on you, and still walk away feeling empty. Because no explanation can undo the pain you felt. No word can rewind the time and change that happened. No words can rewind time and change what's happened. And this is where many of us fall into a trap. We begin to worship closure, not in the literal sense, but in the emotional sense. We make closure the idol. We think we will save us from certain pain. We say things like, I just need them to explain and then I will be okay. Or if I could understand, I could finally heal. But Queen, healing doesn't come from human explanations. It comes from divine wisdom. Closure is not a gift people give you. It is a gift Allah gives you when you finally accept His decree. Let's bring it back to the deen. Allah tells us in the Quran, perhaps you dislike something which is good for you, and perhaps you love something which is bad for you, but Allah knows why you do not know. That verse alone is the antidote to our obsession with closure, because it reminds us not everything will make sense right now. Some things that break your heart are actually protecting your soul. Some things that leave you confused are actually removing you from harm you couldn't see. The Prophet Muhammad SAW also reminded us, know that what has passed you by was not going to befall you, and what has befallen you was not going to pass you by. Meaning that ending, that heartbreak, that sudden goodbye, it was written, and no amount of chasing closure could have stopped it. So instead of worshipping closure, Islam calls us to worship the one who writes every chapter of our story, Allah. Tawakkul, trust, and surrender becomes the real closure. Here is something I want you to sit with, Queen. Every ending is also a beginning, but sometimes we are so focused on the closed doors that we don't notice the new one Allah is opening for us. Think back to a time in your life when you thought, if I lose this, I will never survive. Maybe it's a person, a job, a friendship, or even a version of yourself. And then when it ended, you cried, you broke, you begged Allah for answer, but later, maybe months or years down the line, you look back and thought, Subhanallah, that ending saved me. It freed me. It's pushed me to grow. That is the hidden mercy of ending. Allah sometimes removes things not because He wants to punish you, but because He wants to free you from the cycle of being undervalued, free you from an environment that was slowly breaking your spirit, free you from depending on people instead of depending on Him. The problem is, freedom doesn't always feel like freedom at first. It feels like loss. It feels like heartbreak. But that pain is labor of rebirth, something out to die in order for you to be reborn stronger, wiser, and more limitless. Let me make this practical. How do you know if you've crossed the line from seeking understanding to worshipping closure? Here are some signs. Constant replaying. You keep going back to the last conversation in your head, analyzing every word or every emoji, every silence, hoping it will reveal something new. Imaginary confrontation. You catch yourself rehearsing what you would say if they came back, or what you wished you could finally ask them. Delayed healing. You keep telling yourself, I can't move on until I get answers. That is a big red flag. Healing should not depend on another human being's willingness to explain themselves. Blaming yourself unnecessarily. You think, maybe if I had been better, they wouldn't have left. You turn their choices into your own punishments. Obsessing over fairness. You feel like it is unjust that they got to walk away without explaining, and you got left with the pain. If you see yourself in these patterns, Queen, it is time to check your heart. Because what you're really saying is, I will only heal when a human being gives me permission, but your healing is not in their hands, it is in Allah's. So how do you break free from this closure? Let's talk about practical mindset shifts that will help you stop worshipping closure and start working in freedom. 1. Journal for self-closure. Instead of waiting for them to give you the why, write your own ending. Write out everything you wanted to say to them, everything you wanted to hear, and then close the journal. Let that be your closure. Sometimes your own voice is the one you've been waiting for. 2. Replace why me with Ya Allah. What now? This shift changes everything. Instead of being stuck in the past, asking why, you turn towards the future with Allah and ask, what do you want me to learn? Where are you taking me? What do you want to do next? That question creates movement, not stagnation. 3. Practice daily decree of surrender. Here is a beautiful dua. Say, Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa huwa alayhi tawakkaltu wa huwa rabbul arshil azim. Meaning, Allah is sufficient for me, and there is no deity except Him. On Him I have relied, and He is the Lord of the great throne. Every time your heart aches for answer, say this. Make Allah your sufficiency, not closure. 4. Reframe rejection as protection. Instead of saying they left me, say Allah removed them. That tiny shift in language changes the whole meaning. It takes you from victimhood to divine protection. 5. Anchor yourself in service and purpose. When you feel lost, pour yourself into acts of service, volunteer, create, share your voice, use your gifts. Purpose as a way of healing what people's expectation never can. So, Queen, here's the truth. You don't need their explanation. You don't need their apology. You don't need their closure, because Allah has already written your closure in His decree. The moment something left your life, it was already sealed. Your job now is to stop reopening the wounds by chasing what is gone. Instead, turn your face towards what is ahead. Ending don't define you. They refine you. They strip away what was never meant to carry you into the next chapter of your story. And this is what makes you a limitless queen. Not that you never fall, not that you never hurt, but that you refuse to let the absence of an apology keep you stuck. You walk forward in faith, even when your questions remain unanswered. Let's get practical again, Queen. Healing isn't just a mindset shift, it's a practice. Here is a few tools that will help you embody the freedom we've been talking about. 1. Write a dear past me letter. Write to the version of yourself that lived through that heartbreak, that confusion, that ending. Thank her for surviving. Acknowledge her pain and then tell her, we are not waiting for answers anymore. We are moving forward. This practice gives you emotional closure from yourself, not from them. 2. Write a release list. On one page, list everything you feel you lost when that chapter ended. Time, love, trust, opportunity. On the opposite page, list what Allah has given you since then, or what you've gained in strength, wisdom, or self-respect. This shows you that endings are never just lost, they are exchanges. 3. Make dua for healing and release. Make this dua regularly. Ya Allah, if this is not good for me in my deen, my dunya, or my akhirah, then remove it from me gently. Remove my heart's attachment to it and replace it with what is better. This dua shifts your heart from chasing closure to trusting Allah's replacements. Here's the truth, Queen. Closure is not a conversation with people. Closure is a conversation with Allah. Every time you kneel in sujood and say, Ya Allah, heal me from what I don't understand, you are creating real closure. Because closure is not about understanding the why, it is about accepting the who controls your destiny, who protects your heart, who writes every ending and beginning. Allah. And when anchored into that, you no longer need to wait for words that may never be spoken. You can look back at what ended, say Alhamdulillah for what was, Alhamdulillah for what is, Alhamdulillah for what is to come. That is the real closure. So let me leave you with this, my limitless queens. Stop worshipping closure. Stop giving healing timeline over to people who have already walked away. Stop making your owners dependent on someone else's explanation. Some things ended because they were never meant to carry you into your next chapter. Some people left because their chapter in your story was finished. Doors closed because Allah was redirecting you to better. Don't confuse silence with abandonment. Sometimes Allah removes the noise so you can finally hear His guidance. Don't confuse loss with punishment. Sometimes Allah empties your hands so you can fill them with something greater. So today, I want you to release this. You don't need their I'm sorry. You don't need their here is why. You don't need their closure. What you need is trust, tawakkul, a heart that whisper, Ya Allah, I don't understand, but I trust you. That is when you stop cycling the same wounds and finally start walking towards freedom. That is when you stop waiting for an ending to make sense and start creating a new beginning for yourself. And that is what it means to be a limitless queen. You don't shrink into your wounds. You rise from them. You don't beg for closure. You embody it. You don't stay stuck in questions. You walk away in the answers. Allah give you through His wisdom, His pain, and His mercy. Finally, Queen, I want to hear from you. Drop in the comments, what is one ending in your life that felt painful at first, but later set you free? Your story might be the reminder another queen needs to finally let go. And if this video touched you, don't forget to like it, share it with a sister who needs to hear this, and subscribe for more faith-filled, confident reminders like this. Remember, your past does not define you. Your unanswered question do not hold you back, and your healing is not in anyone's hands but Allah's. You are limitless, you are worthy, and you are free. Until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Peace out.
أحسب أن الدين بعيد عن حب وحياة وبها